A happy Independence Day to all my fellow countrymen. And believe me, this was one of those Independence Days which really nationalism and feelings for the nation were at an all-time high. Uh, Thanks to the government of India for coming out with this harghartiranga, which was really something which was much needed. Because believe me, if you have to see it as a social movement, it was pretty successful. And also because I could observe that even the 4-year-old in my home, he now knows what tricolor is, what its values are, the connection which a citizen should have with the tricolor, and all those things which are very important, which probably were missing, because every Independence Day was just another holiday for most of us Indians, and we used to just be feel that okay, Independence Day, it's just Independence Day. But yeah, that's exactly what has been a common feeling throughout what we have seen, and you cannot blame anyone for it rather than us as Indians themselves. This country is truly independent with a lot of liberties, because of which we also take the liberty of not knowing certain things. One of those confusions which I saw in this very Independence Day was relating to the flag. People had flags at their home, and now they were confused and they were scared also that we don't want to mess up with the law in a wrong manner, where the police would come and arrest us for not maintaining the decorum connected to the flag. So they knew that there is something wrong, but they had no knowledge, and that's exactly what is the problem with this country also. uh, and that's something which where I have been very vocal about, that certain basic laws about this country is something should be compulsory be taught to everyone, not at school level, but at least at graduation level. There has to be at least one subject which talks about the basic rights of an Indian, and something specifically which he or she should know. And because of the lack of it, things like what happened with the flag, the confusion, and many other things are happening in this country. So, as a part of what you call a 75 for 75, what we celebrated, this is my 2 cents to my fellow countrymen, to let them know things which are very, very important. Very, very important. Being an Indian, that you should know about your own country. If you do not know those things about your country, then you'll always be confused. You'll always think about my country is this, that. I'll tell you the one misconception which most Indians have is that they now have started believing that the word secular basically means an abuse. While the word secular has been used by, as in one half believes that it's an abuse, the other half has started misusing the word secular in such a spirit that you know it has become an abuse. They are misusing it for their political vendetta or some other selfish gains, etc. Why all this is happening? Because of the lack of awareness which people have. So how do we get this awareness? So this small lecture, what I'm doing is an attempt from my end. I'll also be translating this to Hindi, because I know this should be spread across to a larger public of our country, and they should all understand it specifically, that what our country is. To know what our country is, we should know the constitution of our country. And that's where Independence Day and Republic Day are different, because it was on the day of Republic that we adopted this constitution and we declared to the world that what kind of a country we are in. So you should know that what kind of a country our country is, what kind of legal systems do we follow. Now, I cannot teach you the entire constitution, but I remember in our constitutional law classes, most of our professors also used to tell us that if you don't want to read the entire constitution, just go through the preamble of the constitution. It's the first page of the constitution where they have written the basic essence of the constitution. When I say the basic essence of the constitution, it also talks about the basic essence of our country. And that's exactly what I'm going to do in the small attempt I'm going to discuss with you, where you probably are going to get an idea about what I'm speaking. Okay, so the preamble of the constitution, how does it start? It starts something like this. It talks about we the people of India. Okay, it goes something like this: we the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a. That's the first line. It talks about we the people. It does not talk about the president of India, the first citizen of India. It does not talk about the prime minister. It does not talk about the judiciary. It does not talk about anyone. It talks about all of us collectively. We the people of India. People means everyone. Even a 4-month old fetus, which is right now in the womb of a mother, is also a part of that people. We the people of India, Having solemnly resolved, it means on oath. Each person in this country on oath is solemnly that having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a. So I often ask people, what do you mean by the word constitution? What is the meaning of the word constitution? Many people tell me that it's a book of rules and regulations, blah blah blah. But if you go by the dictionary meaning of the word constitution, it basically talks about how a certain body has been constituted. What is constitution all about means what does it constitute. For example, if I ask you what constitutes you, you would say hair, skin, two eyes, two kidneys. So that's what constitutes us, right? So here we are talking about we the people of India. What we are saying is we the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute. So we are constituting this country. We the people of India having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a. Now, from here, we start talking about the qualities of this country. That how have we constituted? What is this country all about? The first thing which we start about is to constitute India into a sovereign. So I have a habit of asking questions. So whenever I take sessions, you won't believe it. I have even went to the extent of asking people questions like, "What do you mean by sovereign? What do you mean by republic?" And believe me, I have had a shocker. I have had a shocker where people do not even know the meaning of these words and they say it might be something. That's not how it works. You have to know the meaning of these words to basically understand what our country is. So the first word here, which defines or rather constitutes our country, is sovereign. What do you mean by sovereign? Sovereign means a country. Sovereign means a state which is free from any kind of an external influence. It means it will not have any kind of influence in its decision making, in its internal decision making from anywhere outside, from any other country. It becomes sovereign in its spirit, in its decision making, and it is totally independent. Agree? Many people, thanks to legends like Kangna Ranath, etc., who came and they were talking about we were at Dominion before 2004. God knows what all trash they speak. They speak because they lack what you call as legal knowledge. And so are so many others here who don't know how India became a Commonwealth. So right now the Commonwealth Games where India performed really good, and there were some people who said we should move out of the Commonwealth, but we are a commonwealth because we are not a dominion. We are not a dominion power just like Australia or a New Zealand. That's why you do not have a British crown on our flag. Rather, we are a commonwealth means we were a part of the British dominion, and that's why we are a commonwealth. Commonwealths are those group of countries which one point of time were either a colony, a dominion power, or people who were under the British crown, and they gave us the independence. Okay, so there was another genius I heard who was saying that America was also under British governance. It never became a Commonwealth. Why did we become a Commonwealth? That's because America won its independence through force long back. They literally shooed them off their country. But in India, when protests like the 1857 revolt, etc., happened, India was not unified. We were all different states, and we did not have that kind of a force. But think about it, even with that disintegrated effort in 1857, we did give a jolt to the East India Company. The East India Company was so much shaken that the British Crown had to come up, throw them out, and take over the reins of the country. So think about it, if we also acted like the Americans, we would have been free. We would not have been even a Commonwealth in 1857. But somewhere unity is always a problem in India, and that's exactly how we did not become a sovereign then. We rather became a colony, and then it's a long history. If you read the history of India, you'll find that how the Indians used the law of the British to fight against them, to ask them questions using their own legal system where they were not able to answer, and under force they had to give us independence. And it was, yes, the legal system that we follow in today which compelled them to a larger extent to give us independence. So they gave us independence, and that's how we became independent. We did not become a dominion power. We were not under their dominance. We became totally independent, and we became a sovereign, a completely sovereign power. And that was declared on the Republic Day, where we said we will be a country governed by law. Rule of law will be something which will be governing us. A legal system will be governing us. No one human being, no one family is going to govern us. A system is going to govern us. Which system? That system is what you call as the Constitution of India. We constituted a specific system where Constitution was at the top. Then we have a three-layered body: legislature, judiciary, executive, and these were the three bodies, and under them different other constitutions. So that's the constitution, and these were the people. These are the people who are going to govern this country, and all their parts and functions are written down. They're all specifically mentioned in the document, what you call as the Constitution of India. And that Constitution of India is giving a power to the government and to the people and to the citizens of this country that you all are sovereign. You will take your own decisions about your own country. No country is going to come and influence you. You do not require the consent of anyone else to decide your own issues. That's why, if you have seen, you know, uh, few years back, there were some decisions which we were taking about Kashmir, and there were so many people creating so much hue and cry, to which our external affairs minister had the guts to say, hello, this is our internal matter. You please, we are a sovereign country. Please do not tell us what we need to do. We will do what is required in our territory, in our dominion, in our jurisdiction. We have the power to do. Who are you to ask us questions? Who is Pakistan? And many other countries like the United States of America also recognized it, and they said, yes, it's their internal matter. It's absolutely their internal matter, and they're a sovereign country. We have no rights to say anything related to it. Now, some of you might think that then why United Nations at times comes and tells us that you need to do it? Because with our consent, we become a signatory to an organization called as United Nations, where we have agreed upon certain things, say human rights, etc., where collectively we had decided that yes, when a motion is passed, we will create the laws according to the motion which is passed in the General Assembly, and we'll create our own laws. Our parliament is going to create that law independently, protecting our sovereignty. We will not, they will not make the laws and give it to us. We will create our own laws. Our parliament is going to create our own laws. That's what sovereign means. You understand that? So this word should always be clear to you. Your country is an independent, it's a sovereign state. It's a completely free state. It's a completely free country that you are living in. It does not have any kind of bondages to the Queen or anyone else. Yes, we are a commonwealth, but we are a free country. So the second word which we shall discuss here is called as socialist. Now, there are many people who think that socialism is something which is wrong, something which is blah, blah, blah. But when I ask them, what do you mean by socialism? They do not give me a right answer. On the other hand, they tell me about some theory and some they connect it to Russia, the USSR, etc. Believe me, socialism is a concept which we adopted because in our country, with so many diversification and differences, we call it unity in diversity. It was very important that we have one state, which is very powerful, which has a control over all of the state, and that state acts like a parent to its citizen. So we are not a capitalist state. So let's take United States of America. In its essence, it's capitalist. What does it do? It provides its citizens with everything, education, blah, 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 it funds it, but then you have to pay back to the government, right? It kind of, for it, money is everything. But in India, if you remember, socialism means a state will provide you facilities. The state is going to take taxes from you, but it is going to spend it upon you, right? So let me tell you a very famous instance when Lalu Prasad Yadav became the railway minister of India. He came on on national media and started telling the country that I have brought railway into profits. So there were many people who were happy, but there were many people who laughed and said, what is he saying? How can a government organization earn profit? It is impossible. It's something which cannot happen because in a government organization, the state cannot create profits. Anything which comes is something which is called a surplus because it's a welfare state. We are a socialist country, but the purpose of the state is not to create profits out of its people, but whatever you are spending, for example, Indian Railways is a government of India enterprise. It's basically for us. It's our property. We are paying for it. Even to travel we are paying, but otherwise it's the tracks, the railway lines, and etc. They are all laid for us. Similarly, when the union budget is presented, it's always about how much money has come in form of revenues and receipts, and how they're going to spend it back on the public. You're getting it? That's socialism. And so in a socialist country, it runs on a principle called as parents pattern, where the state will always be like a parent. It will be there. So when privatization happens, even then, for example, telecommunication it got privatized. We had Airtel, Geo, etc. coming. BSNL was also there. So there became a dispute that how are we going to handle the situation? To which the answer was very simple. We created a regulatory authority called as PRI, where government was also there, the private party was also there, but the government is going to regulate the entire privatized industry. It's going to come and even discuss that how the call rates, blah blah blah, everything will be regulated. So the government shall be there. Government will have the say. Government will see that its citizens are not exploited and that citizens are properly taken care of. Okay. So the next virtue of ours, how we are going to constitute our country is again the very infamous word called as secular. Now infamous word called as secular. Now, guys, let's be very, very clear that secularism, as per the Indian Constitution, means that the state, that is, the government, will not have a religion of its own. Listen to me carefully. It says the government will not have a religion of its own. The people who are getting governed will be governed unbiasedly. The government is not going to check whether you are a Hindu, Muslim, Jain, Christian, whatever you are. It's not going to see you from that perspective. Rather, it is going to see you as an Indian. So when we say secular, it basically says that there is no religion here. The constitution will see you as an Indian. The constitution is not going to see you as a Hindu, Muslim, blah blah blah, because constitution is more supreme than even the gods in this country. Yes, without doing any blasphemy, let me explain it that it is more powerful than any gods in this country, because who gives you the right to practice and profess your religion in this country? It is the constitution, right? It's an article under the constitution that gives you the power to practice and profess your religion. So who is more powerful? It is the constitution. If the constitution is more powerful than your gods, so it's very simple. That constitution says for it, everyone is an Indian. It's not going to check whether you are this, that, or not. I know there are many people who might be not thinking that, but minorities get extra benefit, blah, blah, blah. That's a very totally separate discussion where the socialist government, the government will have to create equality. So minorities will be protected using a very famous article of the Constitution called as Article 14, which says equals to be treated equally, unequals to be treated unequally. We'll discuss that probably somewhere, sometime other, where it's a very, very sensitive discussion, but we'll discuss that. But secularism means the government will not have its own religion. On the other hand, it's going to govern its subjects unbiasedly. Okay? That's the meaning of the word secular, and that's the spirit in which secularism has been talked about. Now, the next word which we'll discuss here is called as democratic. So, whenever you ask a crowd where even very educated people are sitting, the question that what do you mean by democracy or democratic, I often get an answer. The answer often which I get is democratic means by the people, for the people, to the people. Uh, then I asked them who said these words. And believe me, no one even remembers that who said this word, in which context it was said, and in which country it was said, because it was not said in India, it was not said by Indian, it was said by Abraham Lincoln, the United States of America's president. And he said it because he also was fighting something called as racism in his country, and to join the people together, he used the constitution and its provisions and enlightened the people. In Indian context, if you ask me what is democracy, it means that people are the power center. People are the ones who decide. So all our election systems, right from a small partial level municipal corporation election to the election of president, it's basically the will of the people through which elections are done. the decisions, the policies, etc. made any governmental function connected to public, what is done in this country is done via a democratic process. It means rule of the majority, but protection of the minority. The rule of the majority will decide, but it will also consider the minority and to protect it. It's going to protect and safeguard its interests also. That is what you call as democratic. And the moment any person, you might have seen in international airports also, wherever you go, this preamble is always kept there or written there. People think that it's put there because of aesthetic value, but believe me, that's not. It's a kind of a disclaimer by the government. It's introducing itself to you and it's saying these are the virtues. This is exactly what we are. So whenever any American, any European will come to India, he will read out the preamble. And the moment he says democratic, he knows that people are very valuable here. People have rights here. That is what the word democracy means. Okay, so that's the meaning of the word democracy. When I say democratic, when I use the word democratic now, don't please keep saying those words by the people to. It's right, but it's not contextually right in the Indian context because in India, the origin of democracy and the way democracy is practiced in our country is very, very different. As I said, we'll discuss that sometime later, where I'll take probably another lecture specifically on what kind of democracy is India and how democracy is actually putting India also in all kinds of trouble. Okay. The next word here is a republic. Now, people celebrate Republic Day with much gaiety. They go, they witness the parade. Kids when they are in schools, they go because they have a lot of fun on those days. They have laddus, they have sweets distributed. Again, flag hoisting is done, everything gets forgotten. And nowadays people do know that yeah, republic means we adopted our constitution. But the real meaning of the word republic is something which you all have to understand and which many people do not understand. And that's something which really pains me a lot because republic, the word means that the head of the state in this country shall always be elected through an election which is direct or else indirect. And the head of the state will never come to power because of hereditary powers. That means a Gandhi's son will not always come and sit and on the seat of the prime minister just because he has become a Gandhi. He has to fight the elections. He has to win the confidence of the people. Only then he becomes the prime minister of this country. Or else someone like Mr. Narendra Modi can also become the prime minister of India because he has the will of the people. So the head of the state is always chosen directly or indirectly through elections by the people. That is the meaning of the republic. That's why China is also a republic. If you buy a product of China, it is written made in the Republic of China. So republic means that. That is the meaning of the word republic. Okay? My dear folks, be very, very clear. This is exactly what your country is. And on the top of it, it also gives you a lot of rights. It also expects you to do a lot of duties, which most of you have been taught in your civics classes. But most of us with a comfort tend to just forget. We are very concerned about our rights, but when it comes to duties, small duties, like even upholding the dignity of the women is something which we fail to fulfill. And we want the rights when and where it matters. We all have a duty towards this nation. One of those things which we do is elections. Whenever elections happen, we go and vote just because a person contesting it belongs to your caste, your creed, your religion. You do not even check that what promises he is making, which is basically a legal document which he has filed with the Election Commission of India, which you have to read and then you have to judge that this person is going to work for me. So I better, go with him. That's exactly how we behave. So to make this country better, you have to know the virtues which I discussed here in the which are given in the preamble of the country, and we all have solemnly resolved for it. You might say that I never read it, I never resolved it. That's not how it is. Being a part of this country, being born in this country, you owe it to this country. The Constitution and its articles are written there. You have to make them practice. You have to understand what kind of country you are. You have to understand the legacy of this country. You have to make the Constitution Act. We lawyers are playing our part. There are great case laws which lawyers bring into the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court interprets the article in favor of the rights But then there is always a fight between the fundamental rights and the directive principles of the state policy, because directive principles of state policy are for the state to create policies and rights are for us, and these are always fighting with each other. It's the Supreme Court of India which makes sense out of it. That's exactly what we lawyers live upon, right? But then as common citizens of this country, I think even you should be aware that what is secularism, what do you mean by republic, who you are, what all are your rights. So in the preamble itself, beneath beneath those virtues which I have just discussed, they have also mentioned that what form of rights you have, what kind of duties. In just few lines it has been mentioned. I request all of you to please go and read it, because of paucity of time I will not go ahead and read out the entire preamble for you, but at least I expect that you will go and read and understand from the preamble that what a great country you live in, the kind of freedom that you have in, the kind of freedom that you enjoy in. And to enjoy that freedom, what are the duties that the nation expects from you? I hope I made the idea clear, and I hope we keep on enjoying this freedom. We keep on progressing as a powerful country, not just 75 years, 100 years, and beyond that. This country should be the way the country is today. We do not become another Sri Lanka, go through the kind of recession they are going through. We do not become another Pakistan and face the kind of gory days that that country is, facing because of the fundamentalism and the radicalism that they have. We remain that one strong country which still believes in all those values which I discussed in, and we keep on growing stronger, and we shine like our forefathers wanted us to be. Okay. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, and once again, happy Independence Day to each one of you.